Most white-collar professionals still think automation is mainly a layoff story. They assume the real question is whether software will replace a role, remove a team, or trigger another round of cuts. That is not the first shift. The deeper shift is economic. Automation changes what the enterprise considers scarce, what it considers expensive, and what it is still willing to pay for in the six-figure salary band. In the United States, especially inside large corporations, compensation is not driven by effort alone. It is driven by dependency, risk, and consequence. Once automation reduces the company's dependency on certain kinds of human coordination, the market value of those roles starts falling before the job itself disappears. That is why many professionals remain employed while their economic position quietly weakens. For years, white-collar pay rested on one hidden fact: human coordination was expensive. Companies needed analysts to pull signals out of noise, managers to move work across functions, operators to monitor continuity, and specialists to turn ambiguity into usable output. The company was paying not just for knowledge, but for follow-up, monitoring, and delay reduction. If a firm wanted execution across finance, legal, operations, sales, compliance, and technology, it needed a large salaried layer to keep the machine moving. Automation now targets that layer directly. Workflow systems reduce handoff friction. AI reduces first draft cost. Telemetry reduces uncertainty around task flow. Standardization removes some of the need for human mediation. That distinction matters. If your role creates value by summarizing, routing, reconciling, formatting, updating, packaging, tracking, or escalating inside a stable system, automation does not need to outperform you perfectly to change your economics. It only needs to make you less necessary. Once dependency falls, bargaining power falls. Once bargaining power falls, compensation growth slows, even when workload stays heavy. This is why many professionals become busier while becoming less valuable in structural terms. Output rises, but scarcity falls. Take one example. A senior operations analyst used to spend half of every Friday building a cross-functional exception report. Data came from several systems. It had to be cleaned, summarized, formatted, and sent to managers before the Monday review. Now much of it can be automated. The report appears faster, more often, and with fewer labor hours. The analyst may still be needed for unusual cases, but the old pricing power attached to producing the report starts disappearing. The task survives, the premium does not. Inside large U.S. enterprises, value tends to concentrate in three zones. First, production, work that increases throughput. Second, control, work that reduces risk, enforces standards, or protects the system from failure. Third, allocation, work that moves budgets, sets priorities, approves trade-offs, or absorbs the downside of consequential decisions. Automation pushes down the price of production support first because software is strong at generating output and accelerating repeatable execution. But that same abundance increases the importance of selective judgment. When more artifacts can be produced, the company pays more for deciding which ones matter. When more work can be routed automatically, the company pays more for exception handling, governance, and decision rights. Abundance at the execution layer increases scarcity at the consequence layer. This is why automation reshapes white-collar value rather than simply destroying it. An analyst who once created leverage by producing structured briefs now competes with systems that can create acceptable synthesis in seconds. A project manager who once created value by sustaining cross-functional momentum may find that workflow tooling reduces the premium attached to follow-up itself. A mid-level operator who once owned process continuity may discover that continuity is now software-mediated. The work still matters, but the need to pay six-figure compensation for the human carrying it does not remain intact. Firms under margin pressure do not ask whether a role is useful. They ask whether it is difficult to substitute under financial stress. The visible mistake many professionals make is watching layoffs as the signal. Layoffs are late. Repricing happens earlier. You see it in flatter bonus growth. You see it in slower promotion velocity. You see it in wider managerial spans. You see it when job descriptions shift from ownership language to throughput language. You see it when one person is expected to manage more systems, more generated output, and more reporting volume without a corresponding change in pay. This is not just a labor market story. It is a capital allocation story. If software can increase throughput without adding permanent payroll, compensation starts migrating away from coordination-heavy layers and toward roles tied to governance, customer consequence, regulatory exposure, and financial decisions. That creates a hard divide between processing value and consequence value. Processing value means moving information, maintaining flow, and producing artifacts inside known rules. Consequence value means defining the problem, choosing trade-offs, authorizing exceptions, bearing downside, and translating uncertainty into enterprise action. Automation keeps making processing value cheaper. It often makes consequence value more expensive. That is the quiet repricing many teams miss. The job can remain visible, the calendar can remain full, and the reporting load can even expand. But if the enterprise no longer depends on your layer to keep motion intact, the compensation logic underneath your role starts weakening. In practical terms, the premium shifts toward jurisdiction. Who can approve a risky move? Who can stop a bad decision? Who owns a metric that affects revenue, cost, compliance, legal exposure, or strategic direction? Who is trusted when machine-generated output collides with ambiguity, escalation pressure, or liability? That is where durable valuation starts to concentrate inside the firm. The career implication is not that every professional needs an executive title. You have to move closer to decisions with consequences. That means becoming the person who interprets, not just the person who prepares. It means owning exceptions, not just process flow. It means attaching your role to budget impact, customer risk, regulatory exposure, or outcome accountability. If your value comes mostly from being a highly capable processor inside a stable system, you are standing in the part of the org chart where automation compounds fastest. If your value comes from judgment under uncertainty, trade-off selection, and consequence management, your economics are harder to compress. How will we know if this view is wrong? Watch what companies reward as automation spreads. If processing-heavy roles regain bargaining power, faster promotion paths, and stronger compensation growth as software penetration rises, then this thesis weakens. But if output scales while approval rights, budget authority, exception handling, and accountability become the real scarcity, then the repricing is already underway. White-collar value is no longer being organized around how much work you can do. It is being reorganized around how much enterprise consequence passes through your judgment. Most professionals will not recognize that shift when it begins. They will recognize it after the market has already repriced them.